One thing I did exactly once in school and never again was diagram sentences. It never made sense as to why we had to do it to me, and for 99.99% of the population, after school, we never had to do it again. Heck, after fourth grade or whatever it was, we never had to do it again. And while we never have to think about diagramming sentences, that's not really the point, is it? The point is to show that you understand the components of a sentence and the structure of a sentence. So even if we don't explicitly diagram sentences in our adult life, heck, in our high school life or middle school life, we still had to go through this crucial activity to grasp how to put together a good sentence. And I'm thinking about this a lot as I teach the components of automation, because you can just open up a Zapier canvas or a Make canvas or whatever and start to put things together. But that would be a lot like just throwing a bunch of words together and hoping you build a sentence. Instead, it's crucial to understand the four components of an automation, and that is what we are going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I do want to say, if you are unsure of the types of automations that you can build or that you should build, I have a new quiz out that will help you. Go to streamlined.fm/quiz and answer 4 questions. Based on your answers, I will recommend 4 automations that will help you solve your most crucial problem. And even if you don't use the exact tools that I use in these automations, you can still see the how and why behind those automations. So again, that is over at streamlined.fm/quiz to get personalized recommendations for automations based on your struggles. All right. Hey, everybody, let's get into it. The 4 components of automation. So the way I'm going to break this down is I'll give you the 2 most important, the 2 requirements. We'll take a quick break for our sponsor. And then I'll give you the 2 optional but very helpful. And I should say at the beginning here that I talk a lot about Zapier, but this is really any automation. And so I'll give some examples kind of outside of Zapier to help you visualize or grasp how exactly all of this comes together. And then we'll talk through an automation that uses all 4 of these components. And every automation starts with a trigger. That's the first component, number 1, a trigger. It's some event that kicks off the entire automation. An automation can't just happen out of nowhere. So you need something to kick the whole thing off. And it doesn't have to be some complicated thing. Most of the time, it's not. It's a single action. It could be someone signs up for your mailing list. It could be that a file gets uploaded to Google Drive or Dropbox. It could be that you push a button on your Stream Deck. Or it just could be a time of day, 6 p.m. All of these things are triggers that could kick off an automation. And to bring it back to something concrete that you likely do yourself, automatic bill pay. The trigger for that is day of the month, right? So if you have to pay your mortgage and you have automatic bill pay on the first day of the month, the day of the month is the trigger. So that's a really simple one, right? If you have an email autoresponder, the trigger is someone emails you. That's the trigger. So it has to be some event or something, some occurrence, we'll say, that kicks off the automation. And that is a requirement. Whether or not it's you pushing a button, which is a more manual, but still an automation, right? If you think about autocorrect or text expansion, right? If you type in some short key combination and it expands, I do ADDR and it expands to my entire address. You typing ADDR is the trigger. So it's some event that kicks off the entire automation, and that is a requirement. Number 2 is actions. So once an automation is triggered, one or more actions are performed. And here you can have multiple actions. When this one thing, this one trigger happens, do all of this stuff. So if we look at our 2 examples from earlier, automatic bill pay, right? The trigger is the day of the month. The action is the mortgage holder, the bank, I suppose. The bank takes money out of your account. So that is the trigger, day of the month. The action is the institution that has the bill takes money out of your account. With an email autoresponder, right? The trigger is someone emails you. The action is your email client sends a response letting people know that you're not in the office, or for whatever reason you only check email once a day. That's like a hot take here. I don't think you need to tell people that you only check your email at 3 p.m. I think it's fine. Those things are the actions, right? Time of day, right? Maybe you want your outside lights to turn on at 6 p.m., right? That's a home automation. The trigger is 6 p.m. The action is your outside lights turn on. And one more, the trigger could be someone signs up for your mailing list. The action is you send them a PDF. So that is the action. Once an automation is triggered, one or more actions are performed. This is also a requirement, right? Because without actions, you have nothing. You have a trigger that does nothing. So triggers and actions are the 2 requirements for an automation. And with that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm so excited to tell you this episode is brought to you by Stellar Sites. Stellar Sites and Liquid Web have been great supporters of this show from the beginning, and now they've made it even easier for busy business owners to create our perfect websites. Most SaaS services leave you boxed in with artificial limits and locked in to using them. But completely DIY platforms can be overwhelming and time-consuming. It's not what business owners like us should be worrying about. Well, consider Stellar Sites the perfect Goldilocks solution. It uses WordPress, a completely open and customizable CMS, on their pre-configured guided platform. That gives you a head start, not a blank slate. The solution that I recommend from Stellar Sites the most is the Learning Package. Most online course platforms are bloated and overpriced and inflexible. But the Learning Package on Stellar Sites gives you everything you need to sell and manage online courses and memberships without going broke first. Plus, it's based on WordPress, so you can start simple, and when you're ready, build the perfect experience without having to migrate or move. Stellar Sites delivers on one of the earliest promises of WordPress: to build powerful sites without needing to know code. If you're ready to build your perfect site without breaking the bank or fighting the platform, Stellar Sites is for you. Head over to streamlined.fm/stellar to learn more. Okay, so we've covered the first 2 components of an automation. Those are the requirements. The trigger, which is some event that kicks off the entire automation, and the action, one or more actions that happen once an automation is triggered. These next two are somewhat optional. First, let's talk about the third component, which is the condition. You can check for certain conditions to trigger actions as well. This is what starts to make automations a little bit more complicated because now you're doing some decision making. So going back to our earlier examples, with automatic bill pay, maybe the trigger is the date and the action is take money out of the account. Maybe a condition is, but only if they have enough to cover the entire bill. So maybe the condition is if balance is at least equal to the amount of the bill, right? This will happen, especially with mortgage holders, right? They're not going to overdraw your account, or some banks have overdraw protection where your account can't get overdrawn. So a condition lies there, right? With email autoresponder, it could be the trigger is someone emails you. The action is you send a response. The condition could be only email this person if they're already in my contact book, right? Or in my contacts. Especially if you're on vacation, you don't want to signal to any random person that you're on vacation. They don't need to know that. Who cares, right? So that could be the condition. And then if we look at our time of day, right? This is an actual automation for my home that I have. 6 p.m., it's actually sunset, but 6 p.m. is more concrete than sunset, right? It's 6 p.m., turn my outside lights on, but only if it's during the Christmas season, right? Because I have the Christmas lights. So it's 6 p.m. between, let's say, November 20th and January 10th. If that's the condition, turn on the Christmas lights. So those are the conditions. Really simple decision making here, but it makes your automations even more robust because now you're not just executing on every action, because that will require some management, right? And in Zapier, it can get more complicated, or in make.com, at make.com. It can get more complicated where you can have these paths, right? Where it's like, if it's condition A, do this. If it's condition B, do this. If it's condition C, do this. But for the sake of this walkthrough, you can trigger actions based on a condition. And then the fourth component is timing. So you can choose how often your automations run. You can choose to run them immediately or at specific intervals. So now we'll kind of get away from our other examples because this is a little bit different. The timing is essentially polling for the automation to happen. It's checking at certain times, right? And sure, right? Maybe with the automatic bill pay, the timing is also the trigger, right? The day of the month is the trigger. The timing is once a month. With an email autoresponder, the timing is immediate, right? You want to send that response when you get the email. So the timing's immediate for that. So those are the four components, right? Number one is the trigger. Some event needs to kick off the entire automation. Number two is the action or actions. Once an automation is triggered, one or more actions are performed. Number three is the condition. So you can check for certain conditions to trigger actions as well. And number four is the timing. You can run automations immediately or at specific intervals. One more, I think, good example for timing for me is that I am subscribed to Help a Reporter Out. They email 3 times a day looking for requests from reporters. And I don't want to have to read through those emails. Sometimes there's a lot of requests in there. So I have an automation set up once a day. So the timing is once a day at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. where it will look for any emails from Haro for that day and then look for certain search terms. And if it finds emails that match these criteria, it adds it to a spreadsheet for me to review the next morning. So that's a really good example of timing. It only happens once a day. So those are the 4 components of automation. Let's walk through all of them, and I'll have a visual in the show notes for this over at streamlined.fm or in the player where you're listening to this episode. But here's an example of an automation where I include all 4 components in one. So the automation is when a new database item is added to Notion, add the email address to Kit, but only if they've opted in. So I have a feedback form. You can see it over at streamlinedfeedback.com, where for a while I was offering a lead magnet for people who submitted feedback. And so you'd fill out your name and email address, and then there was an opt-in to the email list. So when someone fills out the form, that's the trigger. The condition is if they have opted in to join my mailing list, send their information to Kit. The timing is every 2 minutes. And I chose this timing, maybe Zapier chose it for me, because there's no immediate, right? Some triggers in Zapier happen immediately. The service will go out and tell Zapier, hey, this thing just happened. In the case of Notion, some of these triggers aren't. So Zapier actually has to go out to Notion and be like, hey, are there new records, right? Are there new items in the last 2 minutes? So I could change the timing to every 30 minutes or every 60 minutes, but I want near instant gratification here, right? I don't want somebody who signed up for my mailing list or who opted into my mailing list to have to wait to get the free opt-in. So I chose every 2 minutes because that's a reasonable interval. So that's all 4 components. The trigger is new item added to Notion. The action is add subscriber to form or add subscriber to Kit. The condition is only if they've opted in. And the timing is every 2 minutes. Now, I will include some visuals here so you can see how everything works. I also have a video over on my YouTube channel where I walk through all of these with the visuals so you can see it over there too. But that's it for this episode. We talked about the 4 components of automation, the 2 required and the 2 slightly optional ones. If you want to get personalized ideas for how you can automate, you can head over to streamlined.fm/quiz. Take the quiz, and I will send you 4 recommended automations based on the thing that you're struggling with the most. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.